except you are diabetic or you have some kind of medical prohibition on salt, usually you will not enjoy your meal until some degree of salt is added. Now, the beautiful thing about salt is anytime it is added, it is right. You can add salt before, after, and even if you forgot, you can still add it on the table. The system of its operation is that it is never out of relevance. Now, please follow me. Salt. Salt. The word salt here already suggests, listen, that you are relevant for all seasons and in any dispensation. Taste. 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 The Bible says, oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. The goodness of the Lord is not to be believed alone. It should be tasted. That means I should give experience to it. Light gives illumination, knowledge, perception, but salt brings that perception to become an experience. I need light I don't need salt in my mind. Illumination is of the mind. It is with the tongue that you taste salt, and then you know. Oh, taste, experience. Oh, taste and see. You can believe that God is faithful, but you can taste that God is faithful. You can know that God is mighty, but you can taste that God is mighty. You can know God can bless, that's illumination, but you can taste. When your life becomes the evidence of your conviction, you have tasted. It says, oh, taste and see. So when the Bible says you are the salt of the earth, it means you are supposed to give experience to everything God said here. You are the defender of his propositions. Your life is supposed to give validation to everything God says. You personify his thoughts. That when God says, I can bless, you become the portrait, the example, the semblance of what was in his mind. Salt brings taste. But that's not even where I really am going to. The quality of salt that I want to use for my exhortation tonight is the ability to preserve. The preserving power of salt. I was taught that salt does something to microorganisms that is not good. That every time you introduce salt, it can stop meat or whatever it is from going bad. Are we together? Now, you are not given the privilege to see with your optical eyes the dynamics of the destruction that salt wreaks on the organisms that come to prey on your meat or whatever it is. Are we together? Yes. That every time you want to preserve, you can use salt, and then you preserve your meat for a long time. I think we still do it today in many circles. They just dip it in salt and then add some little fire, and that meat is good to go. They leave it there for only God knows how long. So when the Bible says you are the salt of the earth, it means the earth is akin to an endangered species. It can go into extinction. It can lose. It can go into decadence. And then he sends you to be the preserver. Are we together? That you are the salt of the earth. And then he tells you something that can happen that you should avoid. That it is possible for salt to lose its savor. What is its savor? Its impact. It is possible that salt can be in food, can be in a product, and you do not feel it again. It's impossible. The light shines in darkness, and the darkness cannot comprehend it. But salt can be somewhere, and you cannot taste it, because something happened to the salt. It lost its savor. The Bible says in that case, whoever arrives at that unfortunate condition, The only destiny for such a man is that, number one, it is good for nothing but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men. So it's risky to be salt. It's a risk. Because if you propose to be salt and you lose your savor, he's saying there is a consequence. And the consequence is men will do something to you. They will trample you underfoot. Preservers of the lives and the destinies of people. So Mina is preserved not by light but by salt. Light can bring knowledge, but salt can preserve. It can take away the possibility of decadence. Now notice that when a thing begins to rot, there are two things that make you know something is rotting. Number one, the sight becomes unpleasant. Is that true? It becomes unpleasant. Number two, it becomes pungent. The smell. You don't need to come near it. The moment it is rotting, from a reasonable distance, you would begin to notice that something has been dead for days here, or something has been kept, something has been left. And the Bible says that there is a pungency that can arise from the earth when the church does not manifest as salt. And so he says, you are the salt. That means you should stop that pungency that continues to rise like a smell, like an unpleasant sight. Preserve. It means with the presence of the church, people should not have a better yesterday. A man's tomorrow should not be worse than his yesterday when the church is there. Everything that was rotten was once desirable. The meat that rots was once fresh, but something was not done. Are we together now? So that when you find people fresh, when you find certain results, as salt, keep the results consistent. There is something you can do in and around a territory that will make your result predictable and consistent. When your tomorrow becomes worse than your yesterday, the problem may not have been light, but it may be salt. There was no salt to preserve it. Are we together? And I wrote down a few things that I wanted to share with you tonight very quickly, and then we'll pray about our ministry as salt. The way that the Lord would grant us grace to manifest as salt, because so many believers do not understand their ministry as salt, and because of that they continue to wallow in short-lived results. Everybody say short-lived results. That means that you step into a dimension of prosperity, but it does not last. 2 years you're down, back to your past. You experience breakthrough through light, but because the salt was not there. Are we together now? You get back to your yesterday. How many people admire their yesterday? They talk so much about yesterday. They talk about the days. Look at what Job was saying. Oh, the days of my youth. Notice Job never mentioned salt. He mentioned light. Light brought him on stage, but he went down because salt was not there to preserve. Everybody say preserve. I have a dear friend who used to pray a prayer that I started joining him in the years to come. He would pray and say, Lord, preserve my honor. Don't just give me honor, preserve it. It's better I never had it. It is more painful to have a thing and lose it because you have tasted it. If you prepare turkey and bring for me, and then I eat a little and enjoy it, and I'm smiling around, and then by the next day you come and immediately I see that turkey. Before eating it, I've tasted it. Yesterday's taste can still work for today. I mean, it's in my mind. Are we together now? Watch this. But then if you take away that experience and now bring me something that is unpleasant, you will torture me, because yesterday's experience is still in my memory. I want that result. It is painful. Listen, it is painful to enter a dimension and not stay there. It's painful to once be rich. It is painful to once be anointed. It is painful to once be imparted. Are we together? Yes. It's painful to once come into a dimension, and you hear people tell you, I used to be this. Light took them there, but there was no salt to preserve them. I used to be a man of God with power. I used to lay hands on the sick. And they remember and say, oh, there, those days, there was light, but there was no salt. Everybody say salt. Shout it, say salt. You believe what I'm sharing with you this morning? Prayer. We become the light, and we manifest through the power of prayer. It's God's authorized system of negotiation. I want you to look at the areas in your life where certain prophecies may not be from God, but prophetic words even from the devil are playing out. And this morning your assignment in this session is to say no way. Like a video editor, no way. No way. No way. Bring back that movie before it is manifest. Before you present it, before you give the program director, bring it. I need to edit some things. I saw something there that was not in the original manuscript. In the manuscript, I was not supposed to fall like that. In the manuscript, I should not cry that far. And you begin to edit through prayer. Edit pain through prayer. Edit disappointment through prayer. Edit disfavor through prayer. Edit a low life through prayer. When you are done, you can say it's time to make it manifest. When it comes to this realm, all that would be shown is glory and beauty and grace and lifting. And people say, but this is not what I saw. You say, you saw correctly, but I changed it.